this thing called Roadkill Grill, where our truck driver, Tommy, who I never do a show with without going, he meets me at the bottom of the stairs on Saturday morning before, and we shake hands like this, and I go up, if we have a bad show. We once had to haul, he was doing something else, and we dragged him across campus where we were to come do this. Anyway, he cooks up this unbelievable spread every Friday, and I just came back from the meetings with Jimbo, and he said, "Are you hungry?" "Yeah." He said, "I got steaks." And I'm like, "Oh, steak for lunch, that's a lot, Tommy." And he's like, "These steaks from the Texas A&M Butcher Pro." I mean, I'm in there, like, and they're going, "Come outside." I'm like, do you see this steak here? Like, no, glad to see you guys. Thank you guys for coming by.
Rece, what do you think about this matchup tomorrow night?
I think it's a tremendous measuring stick for Texas A&M. It's not the ultimate one. It's not, going to define whether they're going to have a successful program long term, but which they are. But in terms of how quickly they've picked up Jimbo's system, how hard they'll compete, will they be able to finish when they have opportunities? All of those things will be good benchmarks and measuring sticks for them very early in the tenure. The one thing I think that gets a little bit overblown in some quarters is that, oh, here comes Clemson. And look, Clemson is a standard bearer in our game right now, for sure. Them and Alabama, they're the two. And they are a championship elite program. But the Aggies aren't exactly going to be scared to death. They see this. They play Alabama. They play Auburn. They play LSU. They know what a fearsome defensive front looks like. And I know some of the offensive linemen are a little bit younger, but they know. So I think that aspect of it gets a little bit overblown. It'll be a huge challenge. A&M would have to have a couple of things go wrong, in my judgment, for Clemson to win the game. But it's certainly, I think it'll be a very competitive game, and I think it'll be one that Aggie fans will learn a lot about not only their team, but their program from the way they compete on Saturday night.
You've seen and covered and been around Jimbo a lot over your time. What is a story or a moment or a thought that really epitomizes who he is as a person and who he is as a coach?
Well, first of all, he's a guy who cares deeply. He's intense. He demands that you do it the right way. And because I'm a little bit of a nerd about this stuff, I guess, I love going to watch him at practice because, I jokingly said to him, I was at a Florida State practice a couple years ago. It was before Francois was about to start for the first time. It was preseason camp. And I said, man, if a dude can play quarterback for you, he can probably do just about anything in life because he is tough on those guys. But he makes them better. And he's tough on them because he cares about them. And I think that when I was out of practice yesterday, you already see evidence of that. He's demanding. He just wants guys to execute at the highest level possible, which I know all coaches do, but Jimbo's got a real gift, I think, for leadership. I think he's got a particular gift with quarterbacks, and football is such a quarterback-driven game these days that that's a really, really good place to start. So, he's a guy that I think he's always won, builds programs. He knows what great and what championships look like, and he'll get this program there as well because the resources here are phenomenal. And while the resources, certainly were good at Florida State, they were excellent at Florida State, it's probably an entirely different level here of things that, whether it's recruiting territory or building or practice facilities or resources financially, all of those things are just tremendous here. He's got just a great athletic director. Everybody's on the same page, and I think it's the perfect marriage at the right time for A&M and for Jimbo.
I take it that practice is a little different now from 2 years ago when y'all were here last with the other. No. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm just asking. From your take, does it seem like it's very different?
Every coach has his own style, and I'm not saying that Jimbo's tough style is the only way that works. Sure. I'm not suggesting that at all. I think Kevin's a really good coach, and Kevin had success here. Their personalities and their philosophies are different. It doesn't make one right and one wrong. Both can be successful. Both have been successful. Guys are different. Mm-hmm. There's a different vibe at a Jimbo Fisher practice than there is at a Dabo Sweeney practice or a Justin Fuente practice or a Nick Saban practice. Everybody's their own guy. And I didn't, if that's the way that was taken, that's not what I meant at all. I just meant that he's demanding, and he implements his philosophy at a very high level, and he's extraordinarily demanding, and I think that for the most part, players respond very well to that. Kevin was demanding too. The tone, the tenor might have been different, but he too was demanding. You don't have the success that he's had, or that really any head coach has had, without being demanding, but you have to be true to what your personality is.
Right, and that's all I was asking. It's just tangibly, it just seemed it's a different style.
No question. The styles are completely different. As I said, it doesn't make one right and one wrong. But one of the funniest things, and perhaps one of the most true things I've ever heard Coach Corso say, is that anytime you change coaches, usually when you change coaches, it's because you want a different level of success. And the coach says, if you get rid of a fat coach, you're going to hire a skinny coach. If you get rid of a tall coach, you're going to hire a short coach, because everybody wants something, they want it to be different. And so that's what happens a lot of times. Now in this case, to have a guy with a national championship on his resume and be able to attract him from a top flight job to another top tier job is quite a coup. So, but yeah, you generally, when coaches change, usually the personalities change, and there's a lot of talk from the new coach about how we're going to have to establish our culture and teach these guys how to win. All coaches do that. That's what they do. That's what they were hired to do. So, but yeah, there are a lot of different ways to have success, and both those guys have had success. And Jimbo's obviously had the ultimate success with a national championship.
You get a sense he's doing a good job, Rece, of implementing that culture and getting the buy-in relatively.
I mean, I have such a small sample size, it would be a little disingenuous for me to say, yeah, absolutely, I could tell it, but it looked familiar, is the way I'll put it yesterday. It looked like what it looked like at Florida State. Maybe, it might have been a greater depth of personnel or something like that at Florida State at different times, but, frontline guys at A&M are really, really good, and just the tone and tenor and the approach of practice looked very familiar, which is exactly what you expect when you see Jimbo work.
How big of a learning curve is there when you go from, one of the A&M receivers recently said what they did last year seemed like maybe a high school offense compared to what they're doing now under Jimbo? How big of a learning curve is there for these guys in that sense?
The players and coaches would be better to answer that than I, but from what from watching and from talking to coaches over the years about that, again, it's just a different philosophy, but there are more things to do, more things to adjust, more things to read, because Jimbo is a pro-style offense coach. They've incorporated some elements to keep up with the times, the RPO stuff and all of that kind of thing that he's added to the mix in his offense over the last couple of years. But they adjust blocking schemes, they identify Mike linebackers, they slide protections, they do all the different things that maybe is not as big a deal in a spread offense. Doesn't make it wrong. The one thing, the upside to that is that you see quarterbacks walk in as freshmen and they're pretty much ready to play. It's hard to do in an offense like Jimbo runs. It takes a little time to digest it, and it's just a different philosophy. But I think those guys, of how long it takes, probably depends on the player, and how quickly they pick up and how quickly they process information.
You've been a big fan of Trevor Lawrence already before the season started, and what do you think you're going to see from him tomorrow? And also, why are you such a big fan of the young guy?
Of Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
Have you seen him throw a football?
Absolutely.
My man can throw a football, and he can run too. I don't know that people really know that yet. He is fast. If he gets out in the open field, he's a problem. I don't know what to expect. I'm not sure anybody does. This will be a totally different environment for Trevor when he gets in the game. I think the good news about that for Clemson is that Kelly Bryant's a good player. I mean, he's a really good quarterback, and he may not have the pure arm talent that Trevor does, but he can run, he can lead a team. His teammates have confidence in him, so I think you'll see Trevor get his opportunities, and what he does with them remains to be seen, but he certainly has the immense talent at his disposal to be able to make big plays and to put footballs in places where a lot of guys can't, and he's a very talented dude.
Is this a big game for Clemson too in their playoff hunt?
as the former Texas A&M coach and Dabo's mentor Gene Stallings used to say, if you don't think it's a big game, just try losing it and see what happens. And it was funny because Jimbo actually broke out that quote earlier today too. But I think when you are Clemson and when you've achieved what they have, every game's a big game. And they relish the opportunity. They love coming into an environment like this where everybody's hating on them and, you know, yelling stuff at them, and they take it as a challenge to see if they can, you know, quiet the crowd and walk out. You know, hey, look, they've had, you know, every color out you can imagine that they've played. You know, they've gone into Louisville and with Lamar Jackson and shut that down. They went into Virginia Tech last year when we were there for game day, and, you know, really good Virginia Tech team. Crazy environment that night, and they took care of business there too. This is a really mature, it's not just a mature team, it's a mature program, and they're able to function in these high pressure situations, and I think they love it. So to answer your question shortly, absolutely it's a big game for Clemson because it gives them a huge non-conference win if they get it for their playoff resume. Now the likelihood is they're going to rip through their conference anyway, but it certainly would be helpful for them to win a game like this, particularly on the road.
I don't know if you're a rankings guy, Rece, but where does
I vote, yeah. oh, no, you mean, okay.
No, for the atmosphere, where does this rank in your opinion?
Man, I have such a hard time with that because I think every place we go has its own charm and its own thing that makes it attractive and special, particularly to people who are affiliated with the program. But I think the depth of the tradition here and the sort of the unique quality of some of the traditions there, and everybody that's affiliated with the program understands those things intimately, is really cool. It's something that we enjoy. The only thing that is difficult